Well, I will call to order the January meeting of the Bloomington Board of Park Commissioners. And Kim, could you start us off with the roll call, please?
Yes. Kathleen Mills.
Here.
Ellen Rodkey.
Here.
Israel Herrera.
Here.
Jim Whitlatch.
Present.
Okay. All right, great. So we have all four members. And then section A in our consent calendar, thanks to Kim, we've had several days to look over all of these things. Our minutes from the last meeting, surplus, credit card refunds, and then some smaller agreements and contracts, or those things that we typically always do, like the farmer's market contract template. So nothing new in this section A. Do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I'll move to approve.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right. And then a roll call vote, please, Kim.
Kathleen Mills.
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey.
Aye.
Israel Herrera.
Aye.
Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
Okay. All right. And then that motion passes. And then in our section B, we have a staff introduction from the new community events specialist, Haley Pryson.
Hello. My name is Haley Pryson. I'm so excited to be stepping into the community event specialist position here with City of Bloomington Parks and Rec. I am originally from Jackson, Michigan, and completed my undergrad degree in secondary education at Eastern Michigan University. During my time at Eastern, I had some experience event planning while in my music organization, Kappa Kappa Psi. During my undergrad degree, I also spent a summer working full-time as a cabin leader for a children's residential camp in Washington State. In this position, I gained experience working with younger kids and programming events and activities. Before moving here to Bloomington, I was located out in Seattle, Washington. While in the Pacific Northwest, I was working full-time as a crew lead with Earth Corps, a nonprofit organization that focuses on environmental restoration work in the Puget Sound region. Through this position, I was able to lead a cohort of young adults that planted over 13,000 native plants and restored many miles of land through control of non-native species. As a new resident in Bloomington, I look forward to exploring the many things that this city has to offer. I know this position will be a great way to connect with many community members and create opportunities for meaningful connections for them as well. Respectfully submitted, Haley Pryson.
All right. Thank you, Haley. It's nice to meet you, and it sounds like you have a lot of great experience to bring to the position.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Welcome.
Yeah, welcome, Haley. Nice to meet you.
Okay. And then into section C, our other business. So it's, since it is January, and we know that because it's very cold, we typically have our election of Board of Park Commissioners officers. So I believe we need someone to put forth the motion, or I guess put forth the setup of officers with me as the president and Ellen as the vice president and Israel as our liaison to the Plan Commission. So yes, Paula.
Kathleen, I'd like to also put in there that Kim Clapp as your secretary.
Yes, and Kim is the secretary. Okay. All right.
Thank
so I
you.
guess, yeah. Go ahead, Jim, were you gonna?
Yeah, I'll make that motion that Kathleen be president, Ellen be vice president, Israel be the liaison to the appointment to the Planning Commission, and that Kim Clapp be our secretary.
Okay.
I second.
Okay. All right, great. And then a roll call vote, please.
Kathleen.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Had to unmute myself. Sorry
yeah,
about that. Kathleen Mills.
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey.
Aye.
Israel Herrera.
Aye.
Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
Okay, that motion unanimously carries. So we have our officers for the year. and then moving right into Parks business. First up with Paula, we have the review of Resolution 21-01 to appropriate the Parks non-reverting fund.
Great, thank you all. And Happy New Year. And this is also a housekeeping item that we do at our first meeting of the year. And that is the first resolution of the year, Resolution 22-01, asking for your review and approval to appropriate the Parks non-reverting operating fund. And as you recall, I presented the non-reverting budget to you back in December. And so this is just a resolution to appropriate those funds so that we can begin to operate. As you know, many of our programs and services run through our non-reverting account. The Resolution 2201 outlines by program area the expected or the budgeted expense by program area for a total of $1,195,155. And so I'm asking for your approval for our non-reverting budget.
Okay, all right, thanks. Any questions for Paula? All right, then I think we're ready for a motion on this item C2.
I'll move to approve.
Okay,
I second.
all right. And then a roll call vote, please.
Kathleen Mills,
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey,
Aye.
Israel Herrera,
Aye.
Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Paula.
Thank you.
And then Tim Street has quite a few items here. First up is the review of a memorandum of understanding with BCM to temporary storage trailer on Crestmont Park property.
Yes, good afternoon, Park Board. Happy New Year. My name is Tim Street. I'm the Operations and Development Division Director for Bloomington Parks. Like you said, Kathleen, we've got a few items here. So we've had a busy start to the year. So thanks for your patience as we work through these. The first item on the agenda is the agreement with BCM for placement of a construction trailer at Crestmont's Park. We were approached by both Bloomington Housing Authority and this BCM construction company about upcoming renovations, major renovations to the Bloomington Housing Authority properties that are around Crestmont Park. They were jointly looking for a place to place a construction trailer. And there is a parking lot on 13th Street on the south side of the park, directly across from the Bloomington Housing Authority. And I can share this real quick. Just showing where we're talking about. That's 13th Street across from the Bloomington Housing Authority. We've agreed with BHA and specifically with BCM that they can place a construction trailer there. They will be fully responsible for it for the duration of the time that it's there. It's hook up and restoring the site when it's done. This is a pretty unused area for the park, so it's low impact. And it's something we can do to support BHA's efforts in the area. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, all right, great. Any questions for Tim about this one? All right, I don't see any, so we can go ahead and take a motion for this.
Kathleen Mills.
Oh, I think, sorry, actually.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. We need the motion first.
I can move to approve.
Okay,
Second.
okay. And now we can do the vote. Kim?
Kathleen Mills,
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey,
Aye.
Israel Herrera,
Aye.
Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
Okay, all right, motion carries. And next, Tim is going to stay on and tell us about the contract with Marshall Security for some security services at various parks.
That's right. So we are recommending approval of a contract with Marshall Security and Investigations to provide security patrols at Swiftyard Park and throughout other core downtown parks in 2022. The amount is not to exceed $278,821. This is going to be funded from a new account this year. It was still jointly budgeted by both Swiftyard Park and by the Operations Division. However, the account, because of the way some funds have been swept together with ARPA funds and things like that, they are coming out of a joint account this year. So in mid-2021, Park Board, you approved a contract with Marshall to begin security patrols. We had good success with that last year. Security overall has been well received, and we did notice decreasing incident reports throughout the season. There are, of course, a lot of factors that could go into that, including just decreasing use seasonally. However, we've felt that their presence, especially after hours, has been effective and appreciated. We've had comments from the public. We've checked in with the police department, and overall believe they have provided a good service. So in December, we issued a request for proposals to continue security services for the entire year of 2022. On the second page of the staff report, there is outlined exactly what it is we're looking for. Once we received the hourly rate, we were able to refine that down to the contract amount to fit our budget. So the security services being proposed for 2022 are 2 officers at Swiftyard Park from 6:30 p.m. to 5 a.m. after hours daily. They're doing vehicle patrols. They're doing scan check-ins at different locations. And they use an incident report system that reports live to park staff anything going on. And then in the rest of the core downtown parks, we are looking at 6 a.m. to 1 a.m. daily, starting in March and running through November, basically when we come on season. We will still have some park services staff for other locations to deal with restrooms and after hours issues, but Marshall will be fulfilling a big part of that role this year in 2022. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I believe Sean Marler, he and I talked, is also on, and he can answer questions specific to Swiftyard if needed.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that, Tim. And I'm certainly glad to hear that it's been well received and the incident reports are down. I still, just looking at the cost to parks, it's a little disappointing that Parks has to pay for this. I understand the police are stretched very thin. And, it wasn't really a solution to do nothing. So I'm glad that Parks is able to afford this and that it's working and creating a safer environment. So any other questions or comments for Tim?
I've got a couple questions, Tim. And Kathleen touched on a little bit. The funding for this, as I recall, last year was that when it was funded out of, was it the CARES Act funding? Is that what it was?
That's correct.
So last year it didn't cost the parks anything, but this year that money is no longer available and the city's not putting any in. I'm just asking the question. I don't know the answer. Is the city putting anything in, and is this all out of the parks budget? This is $278,000.
Yeah, good question. So, technically, while we budgeted this in the parks budget, as I mentioned, these 2 account lines have been swept together into a rescue plan fund. So for 2022, these funds are sort of one foot in both worlds, but this is how we work with the controller, and this is being funded through rescue funds. So, it will certainly be a question again as we budget for 2023, whether or not there are rescue funds available, and having to make an assessment of what is going on with the Bloomington Police Department and the long-term effect on parks, both in cost and in terms of the viability and security services that are needed.
Tell me what you mean by rescue funds. I'm not sure what that means.
Sure. So it was previously CARES Act funding in 2021 that came through. Rescue funds are from the ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act, funding that has additionally come down to the city to be used in a variety of categories that has again been funded for this contract by the Controller's Office.
So this is really not necessarily or really not impacting our budget because these are special funds that were awarded to the city and the city's making them available to the Parks Department.
That is correct. I would say it this way: it is not taking away from something else that we would be doing at this point.
Yeah, no, that's good to know, and I appreciate that clarification. When you say that this was put out for a proposal, I have no problem with Marshall. From what I can tell, they've done a great job, but was it put out for bids? Did anybody else bid on it, or how did that work?
It was made available publicly on our bloomingtonplanroom.com site, and we sent it directly to a handful of contractors that we know work specifically in Bloomington, and maybe even beyond Bloomington a bit. We did have 2 bidders come to the pre-proposal meeting, but only Marshall ended up submitting the final proposal.
Okay, all right. And there will be a little overlap between the 2 requirements as I see it, because from the outside the parks, there'll be 2 people at Swiftyard from 6 at night to 5 in the morning. And then there'll be 1 person at some other parks, and that person will overlap the 2 a little bit each evening. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And I noticed that and you said it, you said the core downtown parks. I noticed that not all the parks are covered by this. For instance, Bryan Park, is that a budgetary issue, or is that because the other parks outside of the core downtown area are not having the similar type issues that we have with the core downtown parks?
Sure. When we originally, identified the locations they were going to be working on last year, we chose a handful of parks that were close to the downtown area, and that was because of a number of incidents that had occurred, and wanting to have a security presence in response to those incidents, as well as a security presence to be present with some of our staff at times, especially our custodial staff when they went into certain locations and were doing work. We certainly have the ability throughout the year to adjust as needed. And we have in the past year asked Marshall occasionally to, if we know of something going on or something specific is happening, we've asked them, for example, to go to Twin Lakes Rec Center at one point because we had wind that something might be going on. And so they posted up over there for us. So we have the ability to ask them, to be present in different locations, but in terms of their standard patrols, they basically kind of make a loop that includes up to Miller Showers and Crestmont, People's Park, Waldron Hill Buzzkirk Park, Butler Park, RCA Park, Seminary, Swiftyard, Building Trades and then of course the beeline between all of those locations from end to end is the core of where they're patrolling.
Thank you. Last maybe comment and question is, I do think I'm glad to hear that we're not having to take away from other parks direct funds, at least to do this. I think it is a necessary thing that has to be done. I hope we can continue to work with the city and police to try to get coverage where we need it in the future. But I also think that we should be continuing to evaluate what we as a parks department want, whether or not and I'm not advocating it because I don't want to go down that road, but we at least need to keep at the back of our mind, is there a point where we need to have this service on our own? Because now we're at $300,000. At some point it becomes cost prohibitive and we may need to have our own program if we're not going to get the support and if the costs keep going up. So I'm not advocating for that. I think this is a great interim step, hopefully to get us to where the police can be funded where they need to be to assist us and can have the resources to do that. But I also think we need to be continually looking at other options that may be available. But otherwise, I'm very supportive of this contract and I appreciate the work that you guys have put into it. And those are the only questions I have.
Okay. Tim, just a quick follow-up on, remind me from something Jim said. So Marshall, if they're at Crestmont, and obviously there have been some shootings over at Crestmont, is Marshall are they coordinated in some fashion with BPD if they witness some incidents over there that they feel like needs BPD involved?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And not just at Crestmont, but anywhere.
Okay.
These security officers are unarmed. And so that is part of their duty. They will engage with people up to a certain point where training says is appropriate and safe to. And we'll certainly notify BPD. And we've had several examples where they've coordinated well with BPD in the past year, including during a flood in July. They were very helpful with some folks who needed assistance and directing BPD and emergency services and things like that. Yeah, they have worked well with BPD, and we have had good reports back on the rapport between them.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you. Any other questions for Tim or comments about this?
Yeah, I have a question. Thank you, Tim, for this report. Let me just, how's my volume? Do you hear me?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so regarding the scope of work, I see in I'm trying to understand this, and I might be totally wrong, but the schedules for Swiftyard Park and the other parks and trails would be different, right? For Swiftyard Park would be from 6:30 p.m. to 5 a.m. starting on February 1st to the end of the year, to December 31st. And then I see in the other parks from 6 a.m. to 1 a.m. So it would be longer in other parks than Swiftyard Park, correct? Is that the?
Yes. So the rotating through the core parks would occur during the day from 6 a.m. all the way to 1 a.m. So it's definitely a longer shift, several shifts actually, right? It won't be the same person all day. And we found that that's very helpful to patrol and to look for issues and to be available to help people. They've been of great assistance to people as well. That presence has been welcome. And obviously going back to Jim's comment from before, as much as we appreciate the service, yeah, well, obviously we wish we didn't need it ultimately. And as we look towards 2023, we will have to continue to look at that and figure that out.
Perfect. And I have a question regarding service number 6. When it says that vendor must notify Bloomington Parks in the event of any missed shift, absences, or any other issue. So I wonder, in the case of other parks where there is just one unarmed uniformed security officer, does the vendor, like in the case of an absence, so it means for that day we won't have anyone, there is not a backup, there is not a person the vendor might have to substitute that person who calls the company, but the company might say, okay, we will have a substitute, we will have someone replacing the person who has called for absence or person is not able to go. So how will that work in the case of an absence? Will be
sure. Yeah, obviously they're people too, and they've had some last minute call-ins and people not show up. I'm aware of in the last 6 months, 1, maybe 2 times that we have had a late. Sean, any more than that you're aware of?
There was a couple early in January, right around the turn of the year. More so, this is just to keep us in the loop if there is something, and it is rare. I mean, between Tim and I, we can count on one hand the number of times this has happened.
Yeah, it's been very effective so far.
okay. So, and the other thing is with the numbers. Well, you mentioned during the report, the decrease. Let me see the numbers. We have just report until November, correct, Tim? The 5
in terms of how many incident reports?
Incident reports. 5.
Yes, we had compiled through November. I hadn't yet had a chance to look at December. I know it was a low number. Sean, I don't know if you had looked at the total number for December yet.
Yeah, I hadn't put them together yet, but it is a very low number.
So that would be less than 5.
I'm not sure if it would be less than 5, but I know it's around there. Yeah, no big jump or anything like that.
Okay, and one of the reasons that you presented, or is on the packet, is maybe the season and obviously the security. I wonder about those 5 in November, and maybe if there is if you happen to have the kinds of incident reports. We have the last, well, we have just October, November in this case. We don't have December. But what kind of incident reports? It has decreased. I see the decrease from 126 to 28, almost 100 into 5, 121. So those 5 or those 28, what types of incident reports we have had in the parks?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Sean. I would love for you to answer that too, because I think you have some really good perspective on Swiftyard. When they first started, there's a number of factors here that I think affect the number of incident reports. Number one, when they first started, they were reporting everything. And so there was a little bit of a learning curve to figure out, what's a good report, things like that. But also people weren't used to them. So in terms of the park being closed at 11 p.m. and then having incidents at 11 p.m. of needing to move people on, there was a lot of that. And that is something I think we definitely saw less of as time went on, particularly at Swiftyard. What the 5 were in November, I couldn't tell you right now, but we have that data. We have a whole database of incident reports, and we could get back to you on that. Sean, any thoughts on Swiftyard with that question?
Yeah, I would agree with how Tim characterized that. Initially, when they came on, some of the reports were just a light out, which was helpful because sometimes at night we're not able to see that sort of thing. But many of them were property damage or trespassing. And a lot of those trespassing went away as when they first started, they weren't really used, the public and specifically unhoused individuals weren't used to seeing people in the parks at those time of nights. So it took a while, it took multiple tries sometimes for them to understand that they weren't supposed to be there. So the longer we had the security presence, the more they understood. And so that's one reason why I think we saw a decrease in those type of things. Correspondingly, there was a decrease in trespassing, late night trespassing. I think 2 of the most, if I forget, it was in late November, early December, oddly enough, 2 of them were at the skate park, just skateboarders there at like 3 a.m. So, but the more we have security presence, the less we have of those type of problems.
Thank you. And my last question is regarding diversity and the shifts, because we have like 2 officers. We will have 2 officers for Swiftyard Park, and from 6 p.m. to 5 a.m. This will be just one shift from 6 p.m. to 5 a.m. or are we going to have 2? And also, since we have 2, could you tell us about the diversity of the officers? With this, I mean, do we have officers like bilingual officers in not just the Spanish, but in other languages? And also, will be this just the officer will be just male, or are we going to also have females and males?
Sure. I don't know all the answers to the questions of what Marshall staff entails. They did, because they're a vendor that submitted a bid over $10,000, have to file an affirmative action plan with the city. So that would be in place for them in terms of their hiring practices and who they're hiring. That said, I don't know the whole makeup of their staff, but I do know that, over the course of the past 6 months, we have seen a diversity of different officers in the position. I don't know about languages that they speak. I'm not sure about that. And to the first part of your question, that wouldn't be one shift overnight. I think they would probably be breaking it up about 6 to 11, midnight, something like that, and then switching and bringing someone else on for the duration of the shift.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know from my own personal, the ones I have met a diversity of officers. Again, I couldn't speak the language though.
Perfect. Those are my questions, Kathleen. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. All right. And then unless Ellen has any questions, we can go to a motion on this one.
No, I don't have any questions at this time. I think that the conversation's good, and probably something just as Jim said to, keep talking about, which I know y'all are, and I know you're looking at other communities too, and sort of benchmarking how other groups, take care of these issues too. So if no one else has other comments, I will put a motion forward to approve the contract with Marshall.
I'll second.
Okay, and a roll call vote, please, Kim?
Kathleen Mills,
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey,
Aye.
Israel Herrera,
Aye.
Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
Okay, all right, motion is unanimously carried, and it's Tim Street Day here at the Parks Board
Sorry,
meeting.
you're stuck with me a little bit longer.
No apologies. So Tim's going to stay on and tell us about a contract for some engineering work at the Waldron Hill Buzzkirk stage repair.
Sure. Well, Park Board members, you may recall that last year we approved a contract through you for the inspection of the stage. And this is a follow-up contract now to design a solution for the stage. So in the latter half of the year last year, we noticed some cracking on the Waldron Hill and Buzzkirk stage front columns. It was inspected. We shut it down out of abundance of safety to make sure nothing could crack or fall on anybody. It remains shut down because there is a danger of pieces falling off of some of these front concrete masonry blocks that are wrapped around the columns. This is a follow-up contract not to exceed $7,500 with RC Engineers. This will be funded from the operations non-reverting account at the time. And RC Engineers will work to design a solution and then produce construction documents so we can hire a company to make an appropriate fix. We want to do this with all available speed as possible, but obviously it will take a few months at least, and anticipate, the earliest we'd be able to get to bid and get someone working on this is probably late spring. But we want to keep this moving and hope to have something in the works this spring to get this repaired and reopened.
Okay. And I think we touched on this last time, but did we ever determine, could it be related to that construction that was in the area for so long?
Yeah, good question. The engineering firm that we hired does have specialty in making determinations like that. They did not come up with anything that would be directly attributable to the Hidden River project, and think it's more of a design flaw. It certainly could have been exacerbated by the work in the area, but a design flaw that has sort of been present since it was built.
Okay. All right, thanks. Any questions or comments for Tim?
How long ago was it built? It's been there and then they've done some work on it. So I'm just a little curious how long ago that was.
The stage itself, I couldn't tell you. There's been many iterations of that over the decades. The shell over the top of it, I believe, was either 2000 or 2001. And I should choose my words carefully. I don't know if it was a design flaw necessarily, but just part of the design that caused this cracking that needs to be fixed at this point.
Okay. Any other questions for Tim?
Move we approve.
Okay.
Second.
All right. And a roll call vote, please.
Kathleen Mills,
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey,
Aye.
Israel Herrera,
Aye.
Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
Okay. Motion unanimously carried. And then next up, Tim will tell us about the MOU with the City Engineering Department for bridge inspections in the parks.
Sure. So tonight we are recommending approval of this MOU with the engineering department and the total amount of $10,133 to be paid from our general fund operations account. This is for bridge inspections in parks. A little bit of background is that the engineering department, parks department, and City of Bloomington utilities have been working together to coordinate what bridges and culverts around the city are owned by whom and which need to have inspections done. We prioritized 4 main bridges that we'd like to see inspected, and engineering has put together the contract. The 4 bridges we are going to work to inspect this year include both B-line bridges at 3rd Street and Grimes, the rail trail bridge at Church Lane, and a small pedestrian overpass bridge at Alcott Park.
Okay, all right, thank you. Any questions about this for Tim?
Is there anything that led to this inspection process? Do we have concerns, or is it just something that is routinely recommended for bridges after so many years?
No particular concerns, just wanting to do due diligence and try to have maintenance be preventative instead of reactionary.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, any other questions?
I was just going to comment that I feel like I've seen a lot of that more in the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years since that bridge collapsed in Minneapolis. I think bridge inspection is much more proactive now.
Yeah.
For good reason. But I can move to approve.
Okay,
Yeah, team. So there are 4 bridges, right, that were selected. Is 4 bridge inspections. Is that correct?
Yes, those 4 bridges.
And one of those I see is the Restore Rail Trail Bridge. Was this something done by this company, or that was something different, or in why the inspection of a Restore Bridge?
In terms of the company that's doing the inspection is Beam Longest and Neff, which is an engineering firm that the engineering department obtained. I'm not sure of any previous involvement they would have had with this bridge, but they are experts in this type of structural engineering. The bridges we selected some of our most major high traffic bridges to inspect first, particularly the rail trail and the 2 B-line bridges, which are much larger in scale than our other pedestrian bridges. But we do plan to start even later this year. We want to probably do another contract and set up bridges on a rotating inspection basis. So you'll probably hear more on this topic from us later in the year regarding other bridges.
Thank you, Tim. So we will see maybe other bridges being inspected in the future in the commission.
Yeah, on a rotating basis, because if we tried to do them all at once, it would be a massive amount.
Perfect.
okay. I think Ellen moved to approve, so we just need a second and then we can have a vote.
I second.
Okay, and the roll call, please, Kim?
Kathleen Mills,
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey, Israel Herrera,
Aye.
Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
Okay, motion is unanimously carried. And then finally for Tim's section, a contract with Rivertown Construction for concrete work.
That's right. Last one for the moment. Staff recommends approval of a contract with Rivertown Construction to pour concrete sidewalk and curbing at the Waldron Hill and Buzzkirk Park. You'll recall that last year, Park Board approved a contract with Miracle to install a new playground at the Waldron Hill and Buzzkirk Park. As we move along with this process, and Milestone has finished their work in that area and moved on farther north and restored the area, we are now ready to do some prep work for the playground installation. This contract amount is not to exceed $22,895 and will be paid from the General Obligation Bond Series C. They will complete the installation of approximately 390 square feet of concrete sidewalk and ramping and 252 linear feet of curbing. In advance of the new playground installation, we need the concrete in place before we can do the pour in place rubberized surfacing for the playground.
Okay. All right, great. Any questions about this one?
Move we approve?
Okay.
Second.
All right, and the roll call, please.
Kathleen Mills,
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey,
Aye.
Israel Herrera,
Aye.
Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
All right, motion is carried. All right, thank you for all.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Thank you, Tim.
And then in item C8, Steve Cotter will tell us about the contract with Spectrum LLC for the Griffey Loop Trail.
Hello, thank you. I am Steve Cotter, the Natural Resources Manager, and I'm here today seeking approval for a two-part contract with Spectrum for work on the Griffey Loop Trail and for an update of the Griffey Master Plan. Thank you, Kim, for putting up the photo. This is a photo of basically the first phase of the Griffey Loop Trail, which is a walkway on the west side of the Headley Road Causeway. And the contractor is making very nice progress. You can see the block wall that is formed there, and there are bump outs there. That's the pier, the big one right across the road from the boathouse. And then there are smaller bump outs for fishing spots, both north and south of the pier. So this will be the westernmost stretch of the loop trail around Griffey Lake, which will be about 6 miles long. We're hoping to hire Spectrum to do another portion of the loop trail at the northwest corner next to the dam. They'll enter right there at the west end of the dam by Dunn Street. Here's another picture of the walkway construction. And they'll do a pilot trail crossing of a ravine very close to the dam. That will give us an idea of the cost for the remaining coves and ravines on the Griffey Loop. They will also be doing an update of the Griffey Master Plan, evaluating all the trails in the nature preserve. They will be recommending reroutes, closures, and improvements to increase safety and accessibility. And they will provide conceptual mapping of recommended trail routes, reroutes, and closures to reduce impacts. And then they will also be doing the pilot trail crossing of the ravine. In 2008, we updated the Griffey Master Plan with some help from the CBU, the Utilities Department. And the whole master plan is so large and difficult to wrap our arms around that we've since then decided to break it up into smaller chunks. Last year, we were able to have the amphibian, reptile, and bird portions of the master plan updated. And this year, we're hoping to update the trail section of the master plan. Be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Steve. It's nice to see the update there and to imagine a day and you can walk along that trail instead of the busy road along there at Griffey.
Yes, and I wish that the whole thing could be finished when the walkway is finished, but unfortunately it'll be a while until we can get the whole thing constructed, but the walkway is a great first step.
Okay, all right, great. Any questions for Steve?
No, I appreciate the update, Steve. It looks starting to look really good out there and see it all come together. It's nice to be able to see what that fishing pier is going to look like. And yeah, excited for that.
Okay.
Yeah, great to see this. Yeah, Steve, thank you.
I can move to approve.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Jim.
Go ahead. No, you're fine.
Okay.
I'll second your motion.
Okay, and roll call, please, Kim.
Kathleen Mills,
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey,
Aye.
Israel Herrera,
Aye.
Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. Sorry, my dog Sherman wants to get in on the roll call vote. Okay, So then, next up, we will have Rebecca Swift will tell us about appointments to ERAC.
Yes, thank you. Rebecca Swift, Natural Resources Coordinator. I'm here to recommend some appointments to the Environmental Resources Advisory Council. All of these are reappointed members, which is great. It's wonderful to have returning members because they offer a lot of long-term advice, and they've been following a lot of these projects. So I'm here to recommend Denise Gardner, Jeff Eman, Bill Jones, and Angie Shelton to ERAC for 2022 through 2024. The Common Council has also reappointed Matt Flattery as the council liaison. And just a little bit of background, ERAC acts as an advisory board for Bloomington Parks and Rec on all policy matters pertaining to operations of city natural areas and facilities. So again, they've been provided updates on the Griffey Loop Trail you've just heard a lot about, several ongoing restoration projects, and you'll be able to hear a little bit more about that at next month's meeting when we give ERAC's annual report for 2021. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. And yes, very fortunate too. I recognize these names, and there's a lot of great experience there with environmental issues. So we're fortunate to have these people back. Any questions or for Rebecca or comments?
A couple questions, Rebecca. Are all of the members appointed by the Parks Board?
Everyone except for the council liaison. And there's a rotation. There's 9 members total that you appoint, and 5 you appointed last year and 4 this year, and they rotate even in odd number years.
Okay. I just wonder if we ought to have a little bit. I have absolutely no problem with any of these people. I fully support it. I just wonder if we should be have resumes or something so we know. I don't know any of these people. I'd like to know who I'm appointing. So that's nothing for this year. I'm not gonna have no problem with this year, and maybe it's not that critical, but it's to me that we ought to at least have some information about who's being put in front of us as an appointment in our packet or something. We can at least look at it.
Couldn't agree more. Oh, yep. Kim's going to answer for us.
This is it used to be done. They would submit a hard copy of an application. It is now done online. It's a little bit more difficult to get that information to you because of that. I think Rebecca did print some of those electronic applications out, and I will make sure I get those forwarded to you, and we'll try to do that from now on when we do this for other of the.
Yeah, thank you.
And yeah, following the same question. So Rebecca, you're saying that they have been offered suggestion for a reappointment, correct?
Correct.
So
they're 2-year terms.
2-year term, yeah. So yeah, following on what Jim said, are these people from Indiana University, from the community, both any a specific company that we should know about?
Yeah, so actually all of the above. We try to have representation from different groups. So we have representatives from IU, some professors, teachers from local Bloomington schools, somebody from the Environmental Commission, somebody who represents environmental education from Monroe County Parks, as well as just community members. You know, I don't want to say just average input, but again, people who live in Bloomington and who have something to provide advice and feedback for our advisory council.
Okay, and this advice will go to Paula's office as suggestions, recommendations. Then the decision will be made by the park office, right?
Correct. And we do often invite some of our contractors for projects, for instance, the aquatic vegetation control at Griffey, to present to our ERAC members. So there can be some Q&A between members. And again, we're very fortunate that our ERAC members have a lot of expertise in some of these fields to provide valuable input and feedback on these projects.
Right. And who is the ex officio member?
Sorry, Matt Flattering.
So he is part of the membership because he was elected by the Common Council.
Correct. So
And
he does not vote on them on meeting minutes or motions or anything like that. He basically acts as a council liaison to report back to the Common Council.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know him. It's great. Okay. Yeah, not more from me.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Rebecca. I think, are we ready? We're ready for a motion on this one, C9.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
You approve? Sorry.
Second.
Okay. And a roll call, please.
Kathleen Mills,
Aye.
Ellen Radke,
Aye.
Israel Herrera,
Aye.
Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
All right. Motion unanimously carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rebecca. And then Aaron Hatch will be up next to tell us about a contract with Bluestone Tree for some tree removal and pruning.
Hi, Erin Hatch, Urban Forester. I'm here to recommend a service contract with Bluestone Tree for, I apologize, I don't have it in front of me, but $30,000, I believe, is the amount listed for basically removals or some emergency pruning on an as-needed basis. This is similar to other service contracts we've done. It doesn't necessarily mean we'll be spending that entire amount, and each individual job will still be kind of bid out as needed. This just allows us to call upon them when we have these emergency situations so that that tree can be removed right then and there. Typically, our removals are done in-house unless we're unable to do so, either due to equipment or the expertise that's needed for that job. There is the occasional dangling limb, things like that, that maybe we can't do in-house that this would also address, but not more systematic pruning.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Aaron. And I know that we work with a number of different tree companies. So have we had Bluestone sort of on standby before for emergency services, or?
Yes, we had them last year.
Okay. All right. And are other tree companies also interested in being the sort of standby? I mean, did they, I guess, how did we land on Bluestone as the one to?
So Bluestone has been selected simply because they have a lot of kind of high-end equipment that some of the other firms don't have. And most of these jobs that we're looking at that we can't do in-house kind of require these specific types of equipment. So that's why they are chosen for the service contract. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we'd utilize them for every single job. We'd still bid out each job as needed.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you. Any questions for Aaron?
I don't have any. That was a great explanation. Thanks for that, Aaron. Appreciate that. I can move to approve.
Okay.
Second.
All right. And the roll call vote, please.
Kathleen Mills,
Aye.
Ellen Radke,
Aye.
Israel Herrera,
Aye.
Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
Okay. Motion is carried. And then Aaron will stay on to tell us about a contract addendum with the Davie Resource Group for some tree pruning.
So staff would like to recommend approval of an amendment with Davie Resource Group. This is simply to extend the previous 2021 contract deadline until March 31st of 2022. This was for various small tree pruning, mainly in the downtown area. Some of the trees that were identified for pruning required winter dormant season, and this was unable to be completed by the previous deadline of December 31st, 2021. So this would allow an extension of that contract so that handful of trees can be pruned. There's no change in any of the other terms and no change in the amount.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you. Any questions about this one?
No, so that's pretty straightforward. I can move to approve.
Second.
Okay, and the roll call, please.
Kathleen Mills,
Aye.
Ellen Radke,
Aye.
Israel Herrera,
Aye.
Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
All right, motion's carried. And then, let's see. Oh,
Thank
that's
you.
the last one for Aaron. Yes. All right, thank you. All right, and then Joanna Sparks will be here to tell us about a contract with Ecologic for some ongoing management at Miller Showers Park.
Good afternoon, Joanna Sparks, City Landscaper here today. I'm recommending approval of a contract with Ecologic for implementation of year 4 of our 10-year vegetation management plan at Miller Showers Park. We have been over the past 3 years converting over 2.5 acres of mown turf into native prairie. Basically, we only mow the strips around the perimeter of the park, and we have this wonderful pocket of pollinator and native and bird, animal, turtle habitat in the center there around the retention ponds. We park staff have been working cooperatively with Ecologic. We share management of the property, so everybody is familiar with it and understands the logistics of it, and also we kind of use it as a learning tool. Unfortunately, if there's an invasive in Monroe County, it has shown up at Miller Showers Park. So we also worked with a student group from IU's biodiversity course this fall, and they developed some really nice visual and written content for the outer spatial app, specifically for Miller Showers Park, and it talks at length about our native prairie expansion there and the role of the stormwater retention pond. So anyway, I'm very proud of this project. I feel like we have dramatically improved the curb appeal there. The biodiversity numbers have just really increased. We have just a wonderful variety of creatures there. It's a really nice place to walk by and just spend time. I really enjoy Miller Showers Park. It is a super urban space, but it's very natural and just really an enjoyable space. If you haven't checked it out, please do.
All right, thank you, Joanna. I know that, yes, it's been kind of a challenging spot to manage, but it has really improved. And I always see people kind of dog walking and jogging through there when I go by. So yeah, excellent. Okay. Any questions for Joanna or comments?
No, I would just echo that too. I think it's a beautiful space. I always see people using it, and it's such a nice entrance into town. I mean, it's just when you come in that direction, it's the first, big natural feature that you see. And thanks, Joanna, for all your work there. I can move to approve the contract.
Okay.
Second.
All right. And then a roll call vote, please.
Kathleen Mills,
Aye.
Ellen Radke,
Aye.
Israel Herrera,
Aye.
Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
Okay, motion is carried. Thank you, Joanna.
Thank you for your ongoing support.
And then Sean will be back to tell us about the contract with Airtime Studios for some sound panels for better acoustics there at Swiftyard Park.
Sean Marler, General Manager at Swiftyard Park, back again. Yes, staff would like to recommend the approval of a contract in the amount of $6,336 with Airtime Studios, which is a local business for installation of acoustic materials at Swiftyard Park Pavilion. The funding source for this would come from TIF funds for Swiftyard Park.
Okay. And I guess I just have a couple of questions, Sean. Let's see. Feedback from pavilion users indicates that it's noticeable and sometimes a negative issue. So if you survey people about their experience there at the pavilion, they sometimes mention like less than ideal sound quality, or
It's not necessarily from surveys, but it's anecdotal.
Okay.
We've had multiple types of events, and for different types of events, we've even heard We've had music inside. We've heard a couple of people complain about that. We've had some large events where they were trying to have a presenter, and the presenter was difficult to hear. So we've had multiple times, and it hasn't happened every time, but it's happened often enough to indicate that it's an issue that needs resolved.
Okay. And do you know, back when we were building the pavilion in Swiftyard, I mean, obviously the feeling was there would be speakers and music and things in there. Do you remember? I mean, I don't know. Was there any kind of an effort to make it more acoustically pleasing?
That part of the process was slightly before I came on board at Swiftyard.
Oh, okay.
But my understanding was during the design process, there were a lot of priorities for the park and for the pavilion.
Sure.
And perhaps that was one that they just didn't understand how much of an issue it would be, perhaps.
Okay.
And Kathleen, I'll jump in
Yeah,
here
sure.
too, being part of that process. It equated a little bit to when you build a new house and you move in and you live in it for a year, and you experience things like these. So I would describe this as, it was on the radar, but it's such a massive building with all the amenities in it, that this was one that rose very quickly to the top from the feedback that Sean mentioned. And we're happy that, the funding is there to be able to make this improvement, which should greatly improve the sound in that building for all kinds of gatherings.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that answers the question. Thank you. Any other questions or comments for Sean?
Well, I was Googling optimal reverb in concert halls, and it's like 1.8 to 2.2 in concert
Yes.
halls. So, I mean, this is going to really bring a tremendous benefit, I think, to that space. Just really a nice improvement. So, and it, I mean, in the scope, doesn't seem like $6,000. Like, we want to be good stewards of this, these funds, but I mean, it seems like that's the return on investment there is going to be great. So, yeah.
To be clear, this is part of what it's going to take to correct this issue. The materials are actually going to be purchased separately. So this is just for the installation of those materials.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for Sean?
Some questions, Sean. So part of the question was answered. This is just for the installation. So the material has been bought, has been acquired for the installation. That's what we can get from the packet.
The materials are a separate purchase. We've been working with the company for quite a bit. The costs for that are not included in this.
Yeah.
I apologize, off the top of my head, I can't give you an accurate number. I want to say it's 27, but I could be wrong, 27,000 for the materials plus installation total. It might be a little higher than that. The materials are significant. This is only for the installation. The materials are purchased, so they don't go through the same processes as this. The materials have not been purchased yet. We have been waiting for the purchase order from the controller's office before we can place that order. And we had a couple of delays here and there.
Okay, so can I assume that Airtime Studios would be different to the acoustic engineers that were asked about the issue?
Because I'm sorry, could you say the question?
After consulting with acoustic engineers in the report, so this doesn't have to do anything with the company Airtime Studios that will make the installation of the material.
Airtime Studios is the installation company. They have their own sound engineers. The sound engineers also from a company called Oralex. They're the ones who gave me the exact reverb, what it was currently. They came out and did a test. They're also the ones who were able to say these are the type of materials and give us the 1.93 reverb time, which their materials should bring it down to. They do not do installation themselves, which is why we had to find a company, had to find Airtime Studios.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Any other questions or comments for Sean? Or are we ready for a motion?
I can move to approve.
Okay.
Second.
All right. And a roll call vote, please.
Kathleen Mills,
Aye.
Ellen Radke,
Aye.
Israel Herrera,
Aye.
Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
Okay. Motion is approved. Thank you, Sean. And then we'll move into our section D and have Aaron Hatch back for an update on the Bicentennial Bond Tree Project.
Aaron Hatch, Urban Forester, back again. Today, I kind of want to give you an update on the Bicentennial Bond Planting Project. As you're probably aware, last year we contracted out to have some of these sites evaluated for underground utilities, and now we have a list of sites that have kind of been vetted, and we're hoping to actually start moving forward with planting. We identified 4 project areas in 2021 based on various socioeconomic and environmental characteristics such as existing canopy, potential canopy, previously identified vacant sites, and median income, along with non-white populations to find areas that we can kind of target with an environmental justice scope in mind. And that was using information from Davie Resource Group, canopy assessment, and various census information as well. Right now, we're looking at approximately 304 potential sites for planting in 2022. And we have a request for proposal that is out and have some potentially interested vendors. These 4 project areas include a mix of areas that have separate designated tree lawns. So where you have a sidewalk between, you have a tree lawn and a sidewalk kind of between a front lawn. And then also areas that are just right of way. So the city has a public street right of way. And we can plant within that, but there's nothing that separates it from an individual private lawn. We are hoping to conduct various types of outreach, and I'll have Kim pull up a web page we have for this project so people can have a better idea and have a little transparency as to what's going on. We have a web page that gives information about the selection of these project areas, a place for people to submit feedback. So if they maybe want certain types of trees or have issues relating to trees being planted in their neighborhood or in front of their homes, they have a feedback form that they can fill out and it will be submitted to parks. Additionally, we're hoping to do various postcard mailings to these areas being targeted, along with generalized outreach via email to neighborhood associations and some potential posts on Nextdoor as well. And all this information is available on that webpage that Julie so kindly has put together for this project, with background, some facts, locations, and a timeline. And I just kind of wanted to give this update and let you know what's going on and where we are with that project.
Okay. All right, great. And I see, so planting is actually, some planting is supposed to begin in the spring, it looks like.
We're hoping to do a bulk of the planting in the spring with some fall over into fall. So as I mentioned, we do have a request for proposal that has been out, and we're hoping to get vendors to submit on that to bring a contract to you guys by next month. But it's just opened up, so we'll have to see how that goes. But if we're able to obtain that, we're hoping that most of this will be done in spring 2022.
Okay. All right, well, great. I look forward to clicking on some of these links and getting some more information there. Any other comments or questions for Aaron?
Yeah, thank you, Erin. Right there in February 2026, when we have information meetings. What are these about and how are they going to be communicated?
Yes, so I'm hoping essentially after this meeting tonight to start conducting some targeted outreach to neighborhood associations via email and some next door postings, and have some dates set up for virtual meetings for community members to attend, provide whatever feedback they have, let them know a little bit about the project. Right now, I think I have 2 meetings scheduled on my internal calendar, but this has not been put out to the public yet until I make that invitation. But it would just be kind of places that people can provide feedback, especially since we are working in some areas that don't have those designated tree lawns. And so educating people about that public right of way and what that means.
Great. And Erin, so during March, you will have the feedback from community members regarding things like suggestions or recommendations for other types of trees, and also maybe reasons why the citizen or the community doesn't want trees or a specific tree. And then you're saying that the information will be received by the board, the Parks Board. And it seems that we will be discussing about these petitions, or how will this work? Any kind of suggestion or petition or any kind of a recommendation given by the citizens?
So the feedback form will actually be sent kind of internally to my position. So that can be reviewed to say, you know, maybe this isn't a right tree, right place. So that way we can have some criteria on when maybe a tree is not appropriate, and therefore switch whatever list we're providing to the contractor. The feedback from the Parks Board would be more in the form of reviewing, approving or not approving a contract for a planting vendor at that, hopefully, February Park Board. And we're hoping that the feedback can align. So that way, if, say, we don't believe trees should be planted in a certain place, or the community members really want certain species, that can then be modified and communicated to the contractor.
And will, for a final decision, will this be taking, you know, the decision will take into account, for example, neighborhood petitions, or an individual petition could make a change for any change in the planning of the department?
So right now, this feedback form is more an individual feedback form. There's no plan for official petitions or anything like that. It's just open for community members to submit their feedback that we can then evaluate for, you know, whatever ways we need to potentially modify the project. That's still achieving the kind of overall goals that have been set for this bicentennial bond funding.
Perfect. Okay, thank you, Erin, for your information. No more questions from me.
Okay, all right.
I've got a couple questions, Aaron. On the socioeconomic issue, I have no problems whatsoever with that. I'm just curious, and I saw some of the sites to Indiana University and some other things on studies about that. But did the consultant who is advising us, did they take that into consideration, the economic areas, socioeconomic factors, and where they suggest trees, or who's making that socioeconomic decision?
So what I will say is, when Davie Resource Group did their canopy analysis, they analyzed in a variety of ways, but socioeconomic factors were not part of that. They evaluated it for various types of say zoning, watersheds. They created some sort of priority planting areas based on primarily environmental conditions. The selection of this was my GIS analysis using their canopy information along with American Community Survey census information. And luckily, it pretty matched up with what is American Forest, which is a national nonprofit's analysis of Bloomington for their tree equity score, where there's a link on that webpage about that, where they actually evaluate different communities, with Bloomington being one of them, highlighting where there's maybe disparate canopy and there's some potential tree canopy issues there. So these project areas pretty much align with what American Forest Tree Equity Score Map has suggested for Bloomington as well.
I guess my only comment would be, and I don't have, again, I'm fully supportive of tree canopies and considering social economic. I just don't, I hate for you to get in the middle of that determination without, and it sounds like you have some great resources, and I certainly don't want to be deciding where trees go. I'm happy to approve the contract, but don't want to decide where trees grow. But I just think we have to be careful when we use that as our criteria, how we're implementing that criteria if we don't have a good, and you've used some good things, but it's also, it came down to kind of you choosing where it was. And I guess that's a little bit risky for you, I think, in doing that. But I don't have any problem. I don't have any problem with it. I just think we need to be careful about that a little bit. And it sounds like you have some good resources. So I don't have any other issues with that. My other question for you, Aaron, or my other suggestion may be, we've had the issue of tree plots and people removing trees and tree plots in the right of way of the city, and we had an issue with that earlier the last year, and we talked about education. I would just encourage that process to be part of the education. And I guess my question would be, if I have a tree plot in front of my house, I don't, but if I had a tree plot in front of my house and I wanted to plant a tree, am I allowed to plant a tree, or do I have to go to the city and get approval to plant a tree? And can they tell me if I pay for it? Do you tell me what kind of tree I should plant, or how does that work?
Yeah, so right now as it stands, you are supposed to get a tree permit, a tree work permit, regardless of if it's removal, pruning, or planting. So if an individual wants to plant within the right of way, they are supposed to obtain a tree work permit. And we do have lists as to what are approved street trees. So that way we're not necessarily allowing new invasives, and we're making sure that we're not planting trees that are too large for a site or maybe inappropriate for the site. But individuals can plant at their own expense trees in that area with approval from the city. One thing I will say is, just to clarify, right now, all I'm doing is presenting an update on this. There's no contract for approval or anything like that at this moment.
Oh, okay. That's helpful. And I just think as part of our education, we ought to talk about what homeowners can and cannot do in their right of way, is my only suggestion to you. But thanks for the update. That's very helpful. And it sounds like a great project. Thank you.
Yeah, Aaron, thanks so much for presenting about this. I am excited about it. I kind of spent a little time tooling around the website yesterday when Paula had sent a note just saying, we'd get an update about it. This is not, I don't know if there is like a press release that's going out about it or anything like that, but I just wanted to let you know that I clicked on the form and it wouldn't let me access it. Okay. So that might be just like a technical thing that we need to work out. But yeah, overall, I'm excited. I'm in the project area, so I want all the trees. I'm going to submit the form so I get as many trees, I'm just kidding, as possible. But yeah, thanks so much.
Well, I'll check on if that form's working, but it looks like Kim is able to click on it right now. But if you have any other thoughts or feedback about this and how to make this more transparent or increase outreach, let me know.
So this is the form for petitions or recommendations, correct? Both?
For feedback on planting, yes.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Thank you for the update, Erin. We look forward to some more information in the future. And then in our section E, we'll make time for public comment if we have anyone in the meeting with a raised hand or anyone on email or Facebook. We'll take just a minute to check those.
I don't have anyone in my email, Kathleen.
Okay.
Kim, can you confirm? I don't see a raised hand and there's
Yes,
nothing
I don't see any raised hands.
and there's nothing in the chat.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And then we will turn back over to you, Paula.
Okay, thank you, board members. Great first meeting. As you can see, staff hit the ground running, and I will say a lot of this actually started at the end of the year so that they were ready to put this packet together for you in January. Just a couple of items. I want to thank Ellen for re-upping her term to serve as the Board of Park Commissioner for another 4 years. She finished out a term from a former board member, so she re-upped, so we have her for another 4 years. So thank you. And thank you all who were elected to offices. We know that sometimes we can take up a lion's share of your week with things. So we do appreciate all the time and support that you give us. I do highly recommend that the community check out the Bicentennial Bond Tree Project page. It's got a lot of really good information. And as you can tell, Erin is very knowledgeable in that. So we really want to share all the exciting news about that project coming up. And then just finally, our next park board meeting is February 22nd. We will obviously all be waiting and we will let you know if we are going to continue to meet virtually or if it will be in the hybrid mode, but we will give you plenty of advance notice on that as soon as we hear as staff. So that is all from my end.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Paula. And yes, Israel.
One question. So Paula, you mentioned that it could be either hybrid or Zoom. Not
right. If we are still under the emergency order and that all city meetings remain Zoom, then this would be how we would meet. But that could change if that emergency order changes, and we would be back in council chambers in a hybrid format. So you would all be present, and then we would have the opportunity for people to Zoom into the meeting as well.
Right. So just to clarify, Paula, so all 4 of us, part of the commission, if this takes the hybrid way, we will have to wait for the notification. But that would be all 4, or you mean hybrid also? Some of them.
Ideally, all 4. But if one of you were traveling and could only participate via Zoom, we have the ability to do that.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Paula, and everyone in the staff who participated today. And with that, I will adjourn the January meeting of the Bloomington Board of Park Commissioners. We'll see you in a month.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.